Brandon Brands.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Brandon Brands. Have you ever wondered how to get other people to sell your products for you? That's what we're talking about today. A lot of people have this kind of question because you can only do so much work, but if you can enable other people, resellers, affiliates, that kind of thing, depending on your type of business, to do the work for you, suddenly you are doubling, tripling, 10xing your sales. That's the kind of topic we're talking about today. That's the kind of information I think is going to bring you guys value. Welcome to Brand Growth Live, and I'm excited to bring you our guest. Let's kick it off with the theme music and get going.
Brandon Brands.
All right, all right. Thank you everyone for tuning in this week. This is your first time listening or watching. I appreciate you guys. Feel free to get involved and leave comments, drop a thumbs up if you like today's topic. Your engagement is what drives the show, it drives attention, and it lets us know that you are here and are part of the community. And every week, this show goes on Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook, and I made it easy for you to find by just going to brandgrowthlive.com. If you're here today, it's because you found that, so I appreciate that. And if you hit within the Facebook group, if you hit the button to subscribe weekly, you should be able to get the notifications that this is on every week. So either way, I appreciate you guys. Let's get into our topic and talk about our guest and then bring him on for you today. So let me bring this up for you. Our guest today is Brandon Straza. So another Brandon, a fellow Brandon, which I couldn't help myself. It's great to have another Brandon out there. Brandon will introduce himself, but his question today was how to get other people to sell for you. So with no further ado, let's get Brandon onto the mic. Bring him out, and let's see what he has to say for himself. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Another Brandon welcoming me to the show. So thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Happy to have you. And why don't you tell our listeners, our viewers, everyone out there in the interweb, what it is that you do?
Yeah. So sometime around 8-9 years ago, founded an insurance agency in Florida, grew it from there to about 10 states. And we've got somewhere in upwards, probably around, 8,000 customers or so to date. And from there, the big thing is trying to find a way to build value with our business partners. Those could be mortgage lenders, realtors. That's where we get our business from. But the problem is we're centrally located. I moved the main office years ago to the Dallas Metroplex area. We weren't always able to be in front of those mortgage lenders, realtors, referral sources, business partners. And so we had to come up with a brand called The Naked Agent, where I interview them sometimes through cooking and other things, but find out who they are as people, what they do in the community, and subsequently what they do for a living, and then help put them on social media from that standpoint. The big thing is as an insurance agent, we're a dime a dozen. We're on every street corner. And how are we able to build value and have them sell us before we even get to talk to their customer? So we had to build value in other ways. But again, since we're not top of mind, we're not always front and center with them because we're in so many different states. It was really how are we going to get our referral sources to bring us into the conversation in the beginning and sell us before we even have that first conversation.
Right. And you have customers that sell you and other brands, other companies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, we're not, I'd love to sit there and say that, hey, we're the only one that they want to work with because of the value that we bring. But the reality is we aren't. We're usually anywhere from 3 to 5 that they're referring out. And then you also have to realize that the person that is looking for the insurance probably already has their own trusted circle of people that they're going to be reaching out to. So sometimes you could be up against 8 or 10 different companies out there.
And this isn't a business where you can sell direct to customer.
No.
Right.
No.
So those relationships are critical to your business.
It's they're monumental. I mean, it is the way that we have grown to where we are. If it wasn't for our business partners, we 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 don't have that big budget Geico, Progressive, Allstate. We just where we can be a brand name in everyone's house. So we rely upon other people to sell us up front, so we can at least have a chance at the plate.
Right. Now, the question you brought to us today, which is how do you get other people to sell products for you? Part of that nuance, part of that the reason this question is interesting is the customers, like getting them to know who you are and ask for you even would be a big win, right? So you're trying to balance when you say sell to customers, it's like how do I get customers to be asking for me? And how do I get brokers to be wanting to sell me at the same time? That's the two customers we're talking about, right?
Exactly.
And how's that working for you today? Do people ask for your insurance company by name, or is that pretty rare?
It is pretty rare. There are times when, lo and behold, they do, and they say, "Hey, we want American Option Insurance." If we've really saturated a market, and there's two or three in different parts of the country where we have, and so I mean, like that, we are top of mind. Other than that, the reality is they're not. They're not asking for us.
Right. Now, I think that there's a couple of, answers that people would come up with off the top of their head right away. I feel like the first one, which isn't in my list because I think it's the one that's obvious, is you have to have good incentives, right? Like you need to, but if everyone's doing the same thing, it doesn't really differentiate you. Is that true for your market?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're just a price and that's all that you're bringing to the table, then you really have nothing to offer. They might as well call 1-800, insurance.
Yeah, exactly. Well, appreciate your question today, man. I'm going to pull you out here for a second and dive into it and then bring you back for some comments. So appreciate the question. All right, everyone. Now, before I jump into the question here, how do you get other people to sell products for you? I do want to remind you, if you want to be like our guest, Brandon, here, and you want to ask your questions and have them answered live or be a guest on the show, feel free to go to brandonbrands.com/live guest. Ask your 3 questions right there in the form and it sends it to me directly and I look through them and then I can bring you on the show and let's get your questions answered. Let's be a part of the group. If that's a little bit too much for you, if you're afraid of the camera, send them through anyway. I'm happy to just work with you, have questions answered. We also have a great community online called Brand Growth Community. If you want to check that out, go to brandonbrands.com/FB for Facebook and it'll take you right there. But looking for more guests for the month of August. Happy to get you guys on. So check that out. So now let's talk a little bit about our topic today and get into this a little bit. So how do you get other people to sell your products for you other than incentives, which is, I'd say the obvious answer, which is have a great package for them to want to promote you, or at least a competitive one. I didn't want to give the obvious. So the thing that I think everyone knows, but isn't often like the number one priority, is relationships. At the end of the day, the difference between selling a customer a product and having someone sell for you is the difference between a relationship with a person as like a partnership and a customer in general. So my thing is, how do you spend as much time with these people as possible? That's the key to a partnership and a relationship, is how do you develop the one-on-one communication? How do you show up? How do you get FaceTime? How do you get in person and build relationships and really solidify yourself as someone that is there for them, that'll be there to answer their calls when they have questions, that's there to offer up advice and help and value, and just to start that relationship with the person that shows that you're invested in their business so that they'll be interested in being invested in your business, right? And I'm sure a lot of people are doing this as well. But at the end of the day, what I remember from being on the buying side of this and having to push other people's advertising products to my clients was the people that stuck around, that put in the extra work, are the ones that they took the time that I got to learn what their products were. I knew that if I had a problem, I can ask them questions. I wasn't afraid to introduce them to my clients because I felt like I could trust them and I knew what they were selling. And it was all because of that relationship. And it's kind of funny, though it may not be unbiased, and even if we try to be objective, at the end of the day, we like helping out the people that are our friends, that have relationships with us. Because if at the end of the day, there are 3 right choices for any one customer, I'm going to give them the choice of the person that I like. If all three of them are good enough, are great, enough answers, and we're splitting hairs in terms of the quality of the product, I'm going to refer someone that I like, that helps me out. That's how I'm going to start. I'm going to go deeper on that, but I'm going to bring Brandon back on here to ask you, Brandon, a little bit about the relationships. How are you going out there and developing relationships with your people? Is this a priority for your company? Oh, wait, hold on one second. Let me unmute you. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, relationships first and foremost. I let them know, listen, if I'm just a candy dish, if I'm just a price for your customers, then we're not going to actually have a symbiotic relationship. We're not going to bring a lot of value, and you'll be able to toss me aside, on the first sign of something. So relationships and building that, getting to know what their business model is, getting to know what can help them grow their business, how we can give back. Sort of like the easy people in our world, they'll sit there and be like, we'll take you out to dinner, we'll take you out for drinks, we'll give you gift cards, those kinds of things. Those still don't really build any value whatsoever, except for they fill the belly. So we try to find out what their business model is, what their ideal client is, and how we can actually be a resource and an add to their business model. So when they come to us, and I'm like, listen, we're going to talk on average to your customers 3 to 5 times a year after you have finished your transaction. And every time we talk to that customer, we are going to remind them of you, because your name is always attached to that file. No matter where you work at, if you move companies, whatever it is, your name's always attached to that file. So you're always going to be top of mind. If we find out that they are changing and they're getting a different loan process, getting a different house, whatever it is, we're going to say, hey, have you talked to John or Sally, whatever it is, and whoever brought them to us. So that way we're always top of mind with them, and we make sure that they realize that they're always top of mind with the people that they referred over to us.
Yeah, I always say, even as a marketing person, the sales and marketing relationship is critical. That everything is connected. But my thing is, how do you get salespeople or the people that are out there building the relationships one-on-one? How do you give them tools to be more effective at building relationships? And that's not something everyone thinks about. They're like, well, yeah, I have the bodies, I have them calling all the time, I have them shooting emails. But are there resources you can give them, and not just a higher budget for fancier dinners? Are there resources you can give them that position them as a stronger source of information, education, relationship, whatever it is, tools to help them close the deal, help them build better relationships? And I think that is not every company like really over invests in their salespeople and their marketing materials for their salespeople that look professional, that are like the higher end, versions of those marketing materials, whatever it is, a pamphlet, an email, a white paper, a video, whatever it is. I know you're actually a company that actually goes out and makes videos, which is, I'd say, rare in your industry.
It is super rare. And we sat there and we originally thought that we were going to get some copycat people. And that's the biggest thing at Flattery. We're getting ready to do a whole new video series with to bring on some new business partners, which we're really excited about. And the first thing, a couple people we already work with, they said, within 90 days, this is copyable. I don't think that's a word, but you're gonna have people copying. And I'm like, that's fine. They won't continue doing it, because the lifespan of like saying I'm going to continue doing the same act over and over again is so short. So I'm like, great, that's a great way of Flattery, but they won't beat us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me jump into the second one here real quick. So the second piece of all this, I'd say, is solving their problems, which I'm sure some of this video does that for you. At the end of the day, it's not just about, being like buddy with them and helping, answer their questions when they ask them. It's being proactive about solving the problems of the people that are actually making the decision to resell you to someone else. So what I noticed in a lot of industries is what you think is the problem actually isn't. They're like, oh, I just need to, make sure that I have a great brand so that they want to put me on their shelf or want to, refer me, or that I have a great reputation. A lot of the time if you ask questions, you get a little deeper, and this isn't just your industry, Brandon, but in other industries as well, it might be something like, gosh, the people that are selling, or that one person that's selling for you, they just need training. They need better tools to learn the process. Maybe there's turnover on their end in terms of like people learning the tools to resell your product and 10 others. And if they could just have one online source for watching a video that reminds them like what it is that you do different, or the key areas of things that you sell, or some resource that like easily compiles the things that they get questions on from their customers all the time that they want to send to you. having resources like that, a FAQ or whatever else, those kinds of things, is some of that thing that might be their problem. They might be like, gosh, just educating myself on all these different options is complicated. How do I do that in an easier way? And how do I stay up to date with the latest things that are happening in this industry or within your product suite in general? So solving their problems is a big one. And sometimes that might lead you down roads that you wouldn't have expected. Like it might just be that consistency or having an obvious like customer service phone number or email or place that they can direct customers to that are coming to them instead of to you, or whatever the thing is. Finding out exactly what those pain points are in you and in the people that they're preferring that aren't you. If you can be the first one to solve that solves it more consistently, is definitely going to set you apart from the others. And that's what this is about. It's really about setting yourself apart from the competition. Bringing Brandon back on here. What do you think about that? How do you go about solving problems? Or is that something that's an interesting idea that you haven't kind of fully dived into yet?
No, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. No, I think that's something that sometimes we're very good at, and sometimes we kind of forget and it gets swept under the rug. And so I'd sit there and say, how do you keep it top of mind to solve your business partners, your clients' problems without coming and saying, so, hey, what's your problem? I mean, you have to get intimate with them, you have to get personal with them. But what's a good marketing tool to help that constant reminder as opposed to a calendar invite would you recommend?
Yeah, I think for me, if I'm trying to get to the problem of like what their problems are, sometimes I have to lead the witness a little bit. And the things that I already know in the industry that I'm trying to figure out, sometimes it's about, it could be a survey that has pre-populated answers, but leaves room for them to write an explanation if they want to. But I think you could check in and poke them with little like, hey, just wanted to see if you have what you need for this, that, or the other. And every industry is different. You got to figure out what questions you would ask. But I think giving them something to react to as opposed to asking them to come up with something from scratch is a good strategy.
There you go. So leading questions. Absolutely. Cool.
Yeah. And then, so obviously solve their problems. And then the last one here is make them the expert. And I'll leave you on for this one, B. For me, there's something special about being the person that really leads the way in terms of really knowing your products and knowing your industry more so than the competition does. It shows that you're not just there to sell, that you're actually invested in the business. Especially if you're a smaller company, I feel like you don't have the clout of just the size that like, because I'm this big, I must be a good brand. So yeah, I think you have to become someone that leads reputationally by being an expert in your field, that knows all the ins and outs, that helps make your clients, or the people that are reselling you, also experts. And when I felt informed, as someone who had to resell something myself, when I felt really informed by the vendors that I was working with, I felt like I had secret knowledge that when asked, I was the expert in the room because I was informed by that person. So giving them something that when they're getting asked questions, they can give like really interesting facts or things that you haven't thought of that are like, well, did you know, like one of the more common things that happens to people is this, and actually most insurances don't cover that to the degree that they should. And it costs a lot of people a lot of money. And we think about stuff like that. And this is why we develop a package for you. And this is a great company that does that. Like making them an expert because you've informed them the things that they wouldn't have even thought to bring up, like the little nuanced experiences that they can use as examples even, or taking your real customer stories and pushing it back to them as things that they could demonstrate, gives them the power to be someone that really knows what they're talking about, that has things that they could grab at that are real examples. And when they feel confident in what they're selling, they're going to sell it at the end of the day. So that's my third kind of go-to example. If I had to get someone else to sell something for me, I want to make sure that they are super confident in what I'm selling, and they feel that they have new knowledge that they can share to make them feel like the expert in the room.
You want to add on that with some of the stuff that we do by any chance?
Yeah,
or?
Yeah. Let me know. How's it going for you?
So I mean, there's a lot of turnover in the industry that we work in: mortgage, real estate, insurance. And one of the things that I find super helpful, as you do have a lot of newbies that come into each of those areas, is offering continuing education. I'm not saying, hey, I'm going to go do a CE course for you and you're going to get continuing education, but coming in, so when they do get those new people in there, you can help them with their talk paths for when they do have to have a conversation that's like at the 10,000 foot view, that's not directly about the industry, but it could be about the product that they're having to deal with, and making sure that you're readily available to answer those questions. And then, I mean, for us, a lot of it is being available nights and weekends. That can obviously put a damper on, personal family life. But the minute that you are that expert that is available for them, they'll just keep calling down the line. If you don't answer that phone, no matter how great you are with social media, no matter how great you are with their customers, how often you refer them out to their existing customer base, you've got to be available. I think that's the first thing. The first of the phone is, the first one that's actually going to continue to get that business.
Yeah. And what I think is we often brainstorm, like, I think very broadly, like, okay, we need new ideas this month on how to make our resellers feel, like empowered and whatever else, or make them the expert. But when we actually think in these boxes, it makes the creative process a little bit easier. Instead of just brainstorming kind of anything, if you think, okay, what is the brainstorm I can have around making them the expert? What are some of the things I could really do that would empower them in this way? Maybe it's helping them build their personal brand. Maybe it's giving them resources that no one else has, or access to things that they could share, like a video or a downloaded item that they could share with the prospects that are coming to them. Thinking like, if you just brainstorm within that one little box, you might actually get a lot more ideas, because what I've realized is when you have to brainstorm within the confines of a box, you actually get more ideas than just brainstorming broadly. And if you do that same thing with those other ideas, which is, solving their problems, how do we brainstorm just about the problems that we hear that they're having? Let's come up with 10 solutions to the same problem that they have, or even within the relationship first. How do we brainstorm ideas on really how to be their favorite person, but also the person that is always there for them, that's consistent? How do we show up and make them feel that we're consistent, make them feel that we're there all the time? If you start to brainstorm within those areas specifically, I think the ideas start to flow, and you'll get more than the ideas you've already come up with. And I think that's the case, because you're already in the right buckets. You already know what those things are, but focusing on those things is really what's going to help them sell more of what it is that you're promoting, and help them want to choose you over the other products that are out there. I imagine at the beginning of this, you already have your brand positioning. You already isolate why you're different than the other company. So that's why I'm not leaning into that stuff. It's really about how do you nurture the relationships and empower the people to feel like they really know what it is that they're selling.
Yeah. Can I add one thing? Do you mind, real quick?
Please.
So it's fun to do cool, sexy, fun videos, not only for the people you work with, but the people that you work for. We do probably, I would say, 3 to 5 boring, we call them Brittany videos. It's my sister and business partner, but we do 3 to 5 Brittany videos a week, which are like 60-second pieces on what if this happens? What if this happens? And we make sure that we get it out to our business partners, that it's not flashy and cashy, but it helps educate them in case they do have a question on that. So boring, real value giving back also worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Value first every time. And for those of you that are watching live today, thank you for watching live. Feel free to type in #live if you watch on live. But if you are one of the replayers, that's cool too. We'll take those. Like, type in #replay so that we know you watched it also, you were involved. I do see on the line, April Roga, thanks for watching. Susan, Kevin, thanks for being a part of it. I see your comments. They're just friendly comments. I'll show this one because it's funny. Hi, Brandon, number 1 and 2. I mean, you got to play
number 1.
Yeah, for a show that's called Brand Growth, and we have 2 Brandons that I grew the brand. There you go. Double the brands, double the fun. Thanks. Susan says, good topic. Thanks, Susan, for stopping by. But I appreciate you guys for listening and for tuning in. So just let us know that you're here, and we want to hear from you as well. So let's jump into the second question there, B, and go through some of these quick hitter questions to kind of round out the end of the show here. The second question was, when you have 2 customers, like we've been talking about, the provider and the client buying the product, how do you service both of them? Do you want to give some background on this question, or do you think we've covered it pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, it's so the customer and the provider, that it can be a couple different ways. I mean, the customer can be the customer that we actually insure, and the provider could be the referral source, but also in our case, we also have carriers that we represent. And sometimes how do you service both, making sure that you're being equal and fair?
Yeah. And my kind of easy 2 cents on this is I like to think of the idea of a push relationship and a pull relationship. So uh, for a provider, someone that you are uh, working with all the time, that you have to like be proactive with and send them new content. I think of that as a push relationship. I want the provider to not have to do any work to find me. I want to be there before they ask. So I am pushing, and it doesn't have to feel pushy, but it has to feel like you are the one that's being active. The worst thing is when every time you need something, you have to track other people down. But when you're always around, you just find ways to feel, always around, whether you're actually physically around, or it's a nice note, or it's an email or a phone call, just checking in. Those personal touches, something in the mail, whatever it is, feel like you're around all the time and you're easy to access. So the idea of being a little bit more forward and proactive about being around is how I would be of service to the provider. And I think it's important because just by being around, you tend to pick up more things, like trying to solve their problems, like we talked about. By just the nature of you being around more, you might get more out of them in terms of just things that come up in conversation that bother them without actually having to ask for it. So I think of that as a push. The pull side of it for the actual final customers, the ones that are out there that are just trying to choose something that does the job that, probably isn't the cheapest. Like they're looking for just the thing that's going to get the job done. For them, I need to be a little bit more, do a little bit more of a pull. And what I mean by that is from a service aspect, and that was the key word in this question for me. If I have to serve them, when they are looking for like, how do I solve this problem? I want them to be able to find it. So in other words, they go to your website, they have a question, they just want a simple way to get it answered. Sometimes they don't want to deal with a person and make the phone call. They just want an easy way to access it. So for me, it's finding ways that like when they're looking for you, you're like, yeah, here's all the questions you've been answering. Do you want to read it? Do you want to watch it in a video? Do you want to submit an email? Do you want to call us? Do you want to do a quick instant message? If you don't want to wait on the phone, let us call you back. Like basically doing everything you can so that when they are looking for you, you make it easy. Like you're not going after them and chasing them down and saying, bye, 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 bye. You're saying like, yeah, when you have questions, we're here for you. We have the answers. And that kind of service is, I think, what people want. They don't want to be sold to. They want to be helped when they have a problem. So I say be there when they have a problem. So that's my quick hitter question number 2. When you have 2 customers and have to serve them both, how's that sit with you? Is that?
No, it actually gets me thinking. Like when we're going to the weekends, how can we let them know that we're there? And it makes me think about the website. And do you sit there and say, hey, here's a question on something that is a common question? Do you want video, email, text? What is the best method? So it does get me thinking on what we're not doing and what we could do to make it easier for them to find. It's not that they can't find us, but just if they have to think about it, then we've already messed up.
Yeah, that's about right. And then question 3, let's jump into that. The last one's a little bit of a different topic, but I'm sure relevant for many businesses out there is it better to become great in one social media platform and then build, or do a little in each? And I'm glad you asked this. It is a question a lot of people have, but give me some context there. Are you trying some of these things right now?
Yeah, we've dabbled in Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, a little bit in LinkedIn. But I would sit there and say the main place we really sit is Facebook. And we're trying to figure out how do we start crossing those barriers. And if we put the same content here, and here, I've been told from some people, just make sure it's out there so everyone can find it. I've also been told, no, this platform is primarily for this. So kind of pick and choose the type of content you're going to be able to put in that place. And that's a lot of mental lifting right there, saying I need this kind of content for Facebook, this for Instagram, this for YouTube. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I think it's definitely like a full day topic, right? But the thing that I think is important for people to know, that every time I mention it, it's like a surprise to people, is you could be everywhere. You can be in one channel. That's just a matter of effort and time. I'm going to leave that up to you guys to figure out where you want your time spent and how you want to pick your channels. But I think the thing that will help, like in terms of kind of figuring out what your approach is going to be, is this. There are two kind of channels in my book. There are the things that you create that are platforms, that are places when you put something there, they live, they're searchable, they're findable, and they help you in the long run. So a channel, basically there's like three of them mainly, and it's like the blogs out there, whether it's your blog or it's a blogging platform like Medium. If you create a blog, it lives there indefinitely. And anytime someone searches for that product, if it's built the right way and you have enough content about that same type of topic, eventually those blogs continue to live on and start to help you more and more over time. And they're searchable on Google, and Google and Facebook are the gateways, right? And Google is the gateway that actually leads, you can actually find a way to be found over time. So something like a blog, something that's written in that form, is findable. Something like in video is YouTube. YouTube is the other version of that. Guess what? They're owned by Google, right? So surprise, surprise. But your how-to videos on Google and YouTube, I should say, they're the kind of things that over time, A, you can point people to them, but B, that they're eventually findable. And the point people to it is the piece I think people miss. So when you're like, oh, I did this amazing Facebook post or this amazing Instagram post and I gave all these tips, it gets lost in oblivion. But you can point people to your YouTube video, or you can point people to your blog and say, actually, I get that question all the time. Go check it out here. You like it on video? Do you like it in blog form? Like, you like to read? Do you like to watch? And you have either of them right there. And eventually they start to pop up in search as well. And then the third piece is podcast, which obviously I'm a big fan of, audio format. It's not as searchable yet, but it's starting to get indexed. They're like, that's the next thing, is audio being searchable. But the text in your podcast and the blog notes can be, the show notes of your podcast can be searchable as well. So finding places where your stuff can live on. I can say, look back to episode 37. If you want to know more about Instagram, you can find it. You can actually go download it, listen to it, watch it. That's a different type of beast than social media, Instagram posts, Facebook posts, and Twitter posts and that kind of thing, where you do it once, and if you didn't show up that day, it's kind of lost in the ether because people aren't necessarily searching on Facebook for the topic that you created. They just are building relationships, right? It's social by nature. But what I do think, B, is what I think is what those things are best at is quick engagement. So I like to use those platforms as places to create some kind of attention and then pull them towards the thing that actually is deeper. So it's a relationship tool for me, and it's a attention tool for me. But it isn't something to where if I just did that, eventually I'd be subject to like the rat race of having to keep up a million posts of content every day and keep up with the clutter of everything else going on without building any long-term value, which is what I focus on.
One of my small takeaways, and I mean, it's a big thing, is as soon as we're done, I'm going to open my door and be like, have we been putting the instructional videos on the YouTube channel?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess, I don't know. Well, I'll find out here momentarily.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. The platforms are trying to become like YouTube and like blogs. Like Facebook is like, okay, you can now house your videos on a Facebook page and we'll give you stats, but they're not as searchable because Google owns search. It's just not there. And people aren't necessarily typing into Facebook how to buy insurance. Like, it's just not really where they're going yet. It's not a behavior that's happening in that way. LinkedIn's trying to do the same thing. You can write articles there. They're giving rewards, like they're promoting things that pop up more if you write an article, if you record a video, if you do live video. They're trying to become that. But again, where are you going to send people? To your profile page? Like, it's not an easy to find site that like one of these other things is. So it's they're not there yet. They're trying to become that. But that's how I think about it. I do think you need to like figure out what you actually have time for. And I think it's more valuable to create actual content that lives on over time for your business. And you do need to promote it. But honestly, for me, if you had like an hour in the day to do social media for like the week, like you only had 1 hour, not for the day, for the whole week. For me, I'd rather spend that time not coming up with all the cool posts I'm going to do for the next week. I'd rather spend that time coming up with one amazing Facebook ad and pushing it out to thousands of people instead of the hundreds that are following you. That's where I put my effort.
Brilliant.
So cool, man. Well, great chatting with you today. Thanks for coming on. We're at about the 35-minute mark, so I think we're out of time and attention for today. But thanks for coming on, man. Any parting thoughts? Anywhere people can find you if they're looking for you?
Yeah, I mean, you can always find me on Facebook at Brandon Straza, Instagram. I'm not hanging out there a lot with some of the projects we have going on right now. So I've been light on the social media by intention, but we'll be getting ready to blaze through that here pretty quickly with some of the things that we've got moving on. And again, I can't say enough about you and what you have done just by listening to your podcast and then the Facebook group, man. You're brilliant in what you do, and your approach is palatable.
Palatable. That was my goal. I just want to be palatable so people don't spit me out and be like, "Oh, this is terrible." I want to be
the salt and pepper.
Exactly. I want to be the vanilla of helping you with your brand and marketing questions. So, V, it's always a pleasure. I wish you luck, and as always, you can always reach out to me. I know you're already in the brand growth community that I'm trying to get these guys to join as well. So, thanks for your time today, man, and I'll catch you out there on the interweb.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Hi, brother. All right, everyone. That was Brandon Straza. Thanks again to our guest. That was a lot of fun for me. I hope you guys got some value out of it. That's what this is all about. If, again, you want to be one of our guests on this show and get your questions answered, just go to brandonbrands.com/live guest, and we'll take care of you. Tune in each week, Wednesdays at 1 p Pacific time. And keep on listening, and we post these videos here on Facebook. We also post them on YouTube, just like I've been saying in my thing today, to get your questions answered. So thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys. Catch you next time.
Brandon Brands.